Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Jazakumullah aslan for once again joining us here on our YouTube channel. As you already know, that every Sunday we are very fortunate to have different missionaries and scholars of our Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat to address us. And today I'm very fortunate and humbled to announce a very eminent scholar of our community, Maulana Abdul Ghani Jahangeer Khan Sahib. And most of you know him from MTA. We've watched many programs of him. He was very blessed to have many sittings with Khalifatul Masih Rabi Rahimahullah in the French Mulaqat program for a number of years, and he appeared a number of times on Faith Matters, the program on MTA, and he's also the father of 6, and by the grace of Allah Almighty, 2 of his sons are currently serving as missionaries in the Muslim Jamaat here in the UK as well. And I believe, I'm not sure, but correct me if I'm wrong, Maulana Saab knows more than 11 languages, which is quite impressive. No, that's not true. So I'll ask him to join us and he will rectify me, inshallah. So I'll hand over to Maulana Saab, Jazakumullah Aslan, Maulana Jahangeer Saab to join us today and address us. So please.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. I'm very honored indeed to be with you today. Jazakumullah for the very kind invitation. Initially this had been meant to be only for one Jamaat, a local Jamaat, but it's been extended to a whole region, so this is a very great honor for me. So assalamu alaikum to all of you, and we pray that your Ramadan is going well, inshallah, even in spite of the strange circumstances that we find ourselves in today. Today I'll be talking a little bit, and I understand that the dars is going to be a short one, followed by a question and answer session. I'll be talking mostly, as you might have recognized, the Surah Al-Qadr, which is the 97th chapter of the Holy Quran, and the translation is as follows: In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Surely we sent it down during the night of decree, the Lailatul Qadr, the night of decree. And what shall make thee know what the night of decree is? The night of decree is better than 1,000 months. Therein descend angels and the Spirit by the command of their Lord with divine decree concerning every matter. It is all peace till the rising of the dawn. Now this is a surah which typically comes during the last few days of Ramadan every year in the durus or the darses that you hear. I wanted to address it from one particular angle, but before that we just need to go through some of its basics. Now Allah is speaking about making the Holy Quran descend during the month of Ramadan, and as we know, the Holy Quran used to be revealed in its entirety every month of Ramadan, in its entirety meaning however much had been revealed till that point. And the angel Gabriel used to come and revise the whole thing with the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And it's reported that in his last year of his life, the angel Gabriel had it revised twice during that month of Ramadan. So obviously this month is one of great importance. Now Allah says that it's called a night of decree, Lailatul Qadr. So it's a night of destiny, one that has to do with destiny of the people and the destiny of Islam. And he says that it's better than 1,000 months. Now there are different ways to understand this verse. First of all, if you add up 1,000 months, you will get a figure which is a little bit more than 80 years, which is the usual lifetime of a human being. Although we must admit that men tend not to live that long, and the ladies tend to reach the age of 80 by the grace of Allah. They have better health than us, I think. But anyway, it means that this is a night which is better than the whole lifetime of a human being. Why? Because it is a night where a person can make a decision and decide to change their life, so his life or her life, depending on who it is, forever. That night will be a decisive one, and it's one which is linked to the destiny of the person. Therefore, it's very, very important indeed. Now, nobody knows when the night is going to fall, because we have different reports. Usually it's said that it's, because this is what the Holy Prophet ﷺ himself had said, that it would be on one of the odd nights of the month of Ramadan, and most likely on the 27th night, but this wasn't clear. And he said he didn't remember exactly whether it was this one or that one, so therefore he said you should try to look for it in the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. And how we look for it, it's through intensive worship of Allah, our Creator, and in a lot of prayers, in dua, and in that trying to make that promise to Allah that, oh Allah, I seek forgiveness from all the sins that I've committed previously, and now I want to change my life forever. Now the angle which I wanted to take this from is based on what one of the Sahaba of the Promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, had said. He said that he had been shown how people will be questioned in the afterlife. That is the judgment that's going to be held on for every human being. And he was shown in particular how Ahmadis are going to be questioned. So after death, of course. And he said that he only saw two main questions being asked from of the people who are Ahmadis. The first one was, did you pay chanda? And the second one was, did you do tabligh? So that means that these are the two roles that we have to play. These are the two sacrifices that we have to make, the two things that we have to do as Ahmadi Muslims, the most important things. Therefore, when we're going to seek to make this promise to Allah to try and change our lives forever, we have to, in particular, try to see whether we had missed any kind of chanda, whether it's the chanda aam, chanda wasiyat, chanda the tahrik jadid or waqf jadid types, or any other a promise we may have made to the Jamaat in the past, whether we still have some left over that we haven't contributed yet. And if we are in difficulty to do so, then we should really pray to Allah that Allah help us to be able to do so, because nobody knows when death can strike. And in particular, at this very strange time in history that we're living through, where people can die within a week or two of contracting a virus. So the subject of death is one which is surrounding us these days, and we're reminded of it every minute of the day. So at such a time, every one of us should really make that effort to see whether we were remiss in any of our chandas, because once we've passed away, then unless these chandas are paid by our descendants or the people we leave behind, then this will not be paid by us if we can't, because we've left. So while we're alive, we should say Alhamdulillah that Allah has given us life to do so, and we should pay full attention to this. Now, the second thing which the Sahabi told us, is that he saw that Ahmadis were being asked whether they had done tabligh during their lifetime. Again, this is a subject which should really make us worried. Are we really fulfilling our duties towards tabligh? Meaning, we have been given a treasure which other people don't know about. Are we sharing it with other people? Do we not care about them at all? Do we feel fine and okay with leaving them to flounder in their error and to continue suffering? Now, today, as we can see, Muslims all over the world, whether it's in the Muslim world or whether it's in the countries outside the Muslim world, are suffering greatly. They are killing each other, first of all, but they are also being persecuted, tormented, and also killed by non-Muslims in large numbers. Millions have been killed in Iraq and Syria, in the Yemen, in Libya. And we see that the torment inflicted upon Muslims in Kashmir, in Burma or Myanmar, and in other countries of the world, in China, is immense. And in the non-Muslim world, we see that Islamophobia has been on the rise for quite a while, and now people are starting to attack Muslims openly and to attack their mosques openly. And in some countries, they're doing everything they can to prevent Islam from remaining on their soil by, for example, passing laws against the wearing of the burqa in some countries. So no veils, they don't want veils. They're trying to push for even the head covers to be removed. And the adhan can't be sounded out. There are so many laws that have been passed in different countries, which people try to use to stop Islam from not only spreading, but even existing. And Muslims are discriminated against in their work, at their workplace, in society in general, in the schools also. It happens everywhere, and it's only increasing. Now, the Muslims are not asking themselves why these things are actually happening, whereas Allah says in the Quran that never do we punish unless we raise a messenger. So if we haven't raised the messenger, then you won't be punished. But if we've raised the messenger and you've rejected him, then Allah's punishment is sure to follow. And this is exactly the case. Now, Muslims need to be told this because they don't always realize it by themselves. In fact, mostly they don't realize it at all. They think they've accepted the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and they just don't understand why people are being so mean to them. And they don't understand why Muslims are being so mean to each other. Whereas the whole story is that the promised Messiah has been sent, he's a messenger of Allah, and he's the one who brings peace. Now we have to tell them that you have to look at us and see, we are in our crushing majority from the Sunnah, from the Ahl Sunnah, we are from the Shias, we are from the Sufis, we've all come together and gathered around one hand, the hand of the promised Messiah and the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, and he has removed all our differences. We don't fight each other, we don't persecute or torment each other, and we're not disputing things among ourselves as the other Muslims are doing. So we've been freed from all this violence and all these worries and all these negative things just by accepting the one whom Allah has sent. Now, if we do not give this message to the people around us, whether it's our own relatives or our friends or our colleagues at work or our fellow students if we're at university or college, etc., then we will be answerable to Allah for this, and we will be asked, did you not do tabligh? And if you didn't, then why? Why did you not? Nowadays, we have the added advantage of having all the references, all the books that we need to hand, thanks to the internet. So not only do we have them in printed form, but we can easily access them online as well. So really, we have very little excuse to present to Allah if we have not done tabligh. So every one of us should really, during this month of Ramadan, there were only a few days left, pledge to Allah that we will try to change our lives. We will try to get rid of all the weaknesses that we had in the past, among which are neglect of paying all the chandas that are due, according to what the promised Messiah and his Khulafa have asked from us. That's our sacrifice. And also we will try to make strenuous efforts to convey the message of the promised Messiah salam to the whole world. With wisdom, of course. We have to talk to the Christians in one way so that they can understand in a certain way. And we have to use a different way of talking or different tactics to talk to the Muslims. To each we need to adapt our message so that it will be best suited to them, according to their own culture, to their own understanding. So this is the message, a very humble message, which I wanted to leave you with during these last few days of the month of Ramadan, that we should all try our very best to remember that we are answerable to Allah and that we can be called back to Allah at any time. Therefore, let this Lailatul Qadr, inshallah, may Allah help us all to find it. May it be a decisive night which will forever change our lives, and may it be the best night of our whole life, so that we can move forward and we can say, yes, Alhamdulillah, we tried our best to do our duty. And Allah is most merciful. If His servants try at least, then He will be appreciative. So we should really be fearful and worried if we are not trying. We at least have to try, even a little bit. It's always better than nothing. So we really, really have to try. So may Allah enable us all to do this. I'm not going to belabor the point. I think you've all understood it very well. So may Allah enable us all to do this, and may Allah accept all our devotions and all our prayers during this blessed month of Ramadan, and may we be able to use every instant left in the month to be able to give our full attention to our worship of Allah and to making this serious promise to Allah, so that we may change our lives and the lives of our families and loved ones forever, inshallah. Ameen.
Ameen.
Now if we can move on to the Q&A.
Absolutely. Jazakumullah Asnanza, Maulana Sahab, for a very comprehensive, informative dars. Jazakumullah for these very beneficial instructions as well. So we have a couple of questions receiving now. So I'll just ask you the questions which I currently have in front of me. So the first question we received is, do we have to sit itikaf to receive Lailatul Qadr, or anyone can be blessed with it?
First of all, I had to set the record straight. I have knowledge of about 11 or 12 languages, but I can only speak 5 pretty much fluently. The others are just, I dabble in the other few. Let's just say that I won't die of hunger if I have to use those languages somewhere in the world. That's all I can say. So as far as the i'tikaf is concerned, of course, if a person is in the condition of i'tikaf, it's always it's always more likely that this person will find the Lailatul Qadr, because then the person is fully devoted to and concentrated on prayers and worship of Allah. So that is the best thing to do. But even if one is not in i'tikaf, one may still find the Lailatul Qadr. That is also possible. But of course, right now, in a way, we're all in a kind of i'tikaf, sitting in our homes and not able to go out. So this should remind us constantly that we should devote more time, now that we're a little bit more free from our, moving around in the land, to praying to Allah. So, inshallah, we can only hope that Allah will be merciful and show those of us who are not officially in i'tikaf the Lailatul Qadr in this very month, inshallah.
Jazakumullah. So the next question is, what is the best way to spend the Tahajjud? In Nawafil, or the recitation of the Holy Quran, or Durood Sharif, or is it a mix of all of these things?
Well, it's a mixture of all these things, and I think your heart will guide you and your heart will tell you. Usually the state where you feel the most emotional, that is the point where your prayer will be accepted, inshallah. This is a kind of a sign that your prayer will be accepted. But so therefore, people shouldn't worry too much about the formalities of it. They should try to pray for the Holy Prophet ﷺ. This is very important. And they should, of course, recite the Quran, whatever they know of it at least. But they should concentrate the most on prayers. Now, a word of warning about prayers. I've seen that several Khulafa during their lifetime, they have said the same things about people who write to them for prayers. And they say that it's very unfortunate that when people write for prayers, it's usually for passing their exams, for getting married, for being able to get a good house, and things like this, so very worldly things. Whereas they all say that if only the people had been asking us to pray for their spiritual advancement, for them to get spiritual favors, for them to be able to progress and in their nearness and closeness to Allah, because these are the most important things, but people fail to think about these things at times. So therefore, when we pray also, we should devote most of our prayers to asking Allah to please help us to change spiritually, morally, make us better persons in our character, in our behavior, and also that all our children and dear ones and near ones, that they too should have this opportunity to change. This is the lasting thing which we will take with us into the next world. We won't be taking our exam, results with us. We won't be taking our cars or our houses or any of these things. So these things will stay behind. These things are important in their own right, but they have to be used to obtain the higher things. And this is how they're important. They're not important as such, but the higher things are very important. That's what will keep us alive in the next world in a good way. So this is the most important thing. So please remember this in your prayers, in the du'as that you're going to do in the Hajj.
Jazakumullah Sanazah. The next question is a little bit off topic, but also an important question. Why do we address Allah Almighty as He and not as She?
Well, you see, in the Arabic language, we don't have, as we do in English, we don't have the word it, a genderless word, which is neither feminine nor masculine. In Arabic, we only have masculine or feminine. Now, if you look at the idea behind masculinity and the idea behind femininity, the masculine part of any species will be the part that gives, and the feminine part will be the part that receives. Therefore, if we start using the feminine to talk about Allah, then in a way we're belittling him, because it's like he's receiving from someone, whereas he's not. He's the one who gives to everybody. So in Arabic, therefore, there is no choice. We have to use he to describe him. Now, in translation, we say he, because then he is the translation of huwa in Arabic. And that's the only reason. It's not because Allah is male. He isn't. Allah has no gender. He's a spirit anyway. And the interesting thing is that when we die, we too will become genderless. So we'll neither be female nor male, because that has no meaning in the afterlife. We're only male and female to further the species on this planet and in this life. But when we move into the afterlife, we won't be still making children, to put it very bluntly. So we will be neither male nor female. We'll just be spirits, and male and female will all be the same.
Absolutely excellent.
Yes.
The next question is it possible to perform Eid prayer if we are the only Muslim in our household?
You mean if you're alone?
So it can be both ways. It's possible that there are non-Muslim people in one household, or maybe the person is asking if that person is alone, the only Muslim in the household. So it can be both ways.
You see, the thing is, nobody is going to hell if they make a speech for the Eid and they lead the Eid prayer in their homes on their own. Of course not. But is it necessary? This is the thing. We make the speech so that people can listen and benefit. If there's nobody there to listen and benefit, then what's the point? There is no point there, you see. It would be like saying, if we're alone, can we organize a meal for 20 when nobody is coming? You can, but what's the point? There is no point. But you won't be condemned as long as you eat all the food or share it or something and don't waste it. But the thing is that it has to have a use as well, So if somebody is feeling left out, then at least what they could do is, although they can't perhaps pray behind the person, but they can at least join up by Skype or WhatsApp or something to a family who is leading their Eid prayer somewhere, and they can at least benefit from the sermon. So this is possible. But then perhaps you can't follow them in prayer because the distance between you and them will be perhaps too great. On the other hand, if you're living in the same vicinity, for example, if you're like at 1 or 2 houses down from each other, in that case, if the house which is nearest to the Kaaba is leading the prayer, you can follow them. And I know this particularly because the question was asked by the Jamaat of Kababir. If any of you has been to Kababir, they'll know that there are about 1,000 Ahmadis living there, and they're all living around the mosque. And now, during the lockdown period, the big question was, can anyone lead the prayers from their home, and everyone else follow using, social media? Seeing as we're all in the same village and we're all together, literally, a stone's throw from each other, and it was allowed by us all. So therefore, this is a particular case, but it doesn't mean that if they're praying in one city, then people in another city, on the plea that the timing is the same and all that, they can follow. They can't. The distance is too great then. So this can be done, but to just stand on one's own and just do it is meaningless, really.
Absolutely. Jazakallah. The next question is, what are some effective ways to do tabligh as a woman? And I'm going to join another question with this. How can one participate in tabligh having not much knowledge or even physically not be capable of doing tabligh?
Well, first of all, I have to remind the questioner and the people listening of a principle which was put forward by Hazrat Khalifa Khamis, Ayatollah al-Ramis. He said that in view of the dangers that are involved, men should only preach to men and ladies should only preach to ladies. So if it happens, and it does happen very often actually, if one of our Ahmadi ladies is in a discussion and there are some men there and one particular man is interested and wants to know more, she should hand that person over to Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya or Ansarullah according to the case. And the same if it's one of our Ahmadi men who is approached by a woman and she is really interested in the Jamaat, he should hand her over to the Lajna Ma'allah. Then let them deal with this person. And so that would be the safest way to proceed. Now, how ladies can preach, they can preach in any way that the men can preach in, but except they shouldn't go, for example, to Hyde Park and stand on the speaker's corner and attract attention to themselves like this. But they can do it in a more discreet fashion. And today we have the benefit of, once again, of social media, of the internet, where ladies can do a lot of tabligh, and I know many of our ladies are doing tabligh, and then ladies and men can read what they're putting up on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, and as long as they try to preserve themselves from people who may have bad intentions, they can do tabligh like this, and some of them have done very successful tabligh in this way. So this is one way that they can do it, sitting in their homes. This is how we're doing tabligh all the time, using social media. Even today, just a few minutes before my dars was starting, I was still on Twitter answering some people who were asking about the promised Messiah, etc., etc. So we can definitely do this. Now, if you don't have knowledge, there are two answers to this. One is try to get knowledge. And all the knowledge is there for you to listen to on the Huzur's question and answer sessions with the younger people, and also the Q&As of Hazrat Khalifa Rabi rahimahullah as well. So many of them, literally thousands of them. So you could just sit down and listen to those, and then you can increase your knowledge. But the best thing is you can also share those with whoever you want to. You can send the links to these things to anyone you like, in any country you like. This can be done thanks to social media, thanks to the internet. You can actually do that. So you don't actually need to repeat everything to them when it's already in the tape. You can also send them the links to books, etc. So there are so many ways in which ladies and men can do tabligh, and they really, really should do this. Twitter and Facebook and all these things, they are free, and especially Twitter is a good means. Husur himself told me that he liked this as a means of conveying the message. You see, long ago, if you'd like to contact the heads of state, etc., this would go through so many tiers of bureaucracy, and usually they wouldn't even see your letter. Now, you can address even Donald Trump directly if you want to. So anyone is approachable. You can speak to all the great people of the world and anybody in the world of any level at all, whether they're doctors or teachers or unemployed people or whoever, you can speak to them. So this is an amazing tool, and it's for free. If you're online, if you have Wi-Fi, then it's for free. So why not use it, you know?
Absolutely.
And may I ask in the meantime as well, while I'm here, that if you do join Twitter, then please could you follow us and also tweet and retweet and like what we post. Thank you.
Jazakallah. I'm sure now is also the perfect time while we are at home to get acquainted with Twitter and other social media platforms.
Exactly. Anyone can join. My mother, after she was 70 years of age, she went online and she created her Twitter account all by herself.
MashaAllah.
I'm proud to say. And she doesn't tweet a lot, but she does retweet what from Jamaat accounts, and so she's doing her tabligh in her own way, you know. So anyone can do it.
That's great. I'm gonna move on to the next question in regards to Lailatul Qadr. Does Lailatul Qadr occur for everybody on the same day or on different days within the last 10 days?
That's a very good question, and usually there is one day in particular where special blessings of Allah descend, and several people then report that they had felt that that night in particular was the Laylatul Qadr. But is it the Laylatul Qadr for them? That's a totally different question, because sometimes, you know, people could see the bus coming, and they'll recognize, yes, this is the bus we need to get on, but then they don't get on it. So they know when the bus came, they saw it, but they didn't get on. Therefore, we should be careful that we don't miss the bus, and that when it does come, we seize the occasion and not let go. And the only way that we'll know that we did that is if we've changed our lives forever. If we've done that, then that means that we were successful, you see. And we're all aiming at reaching that stage, inshallah. May Allah grant it to every one of us.
Ameen, ameen. Now the next question is, why does Allah Almighty make us address Him in the prayer in Surah Al-Fatiha, sometimes in the at person, sometimes in the third person?
You mean
I think
in the first person?
In the first.
Sometimes in the first, in the second person.
Yes.
The second person.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah, I think it's so. Sometimes we say you, and sometimes we say as if we're saying he.
Yeah.
So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen is in the third person, and then we address him directly. Well, this is the style of the Quran. You'll find that very often Allah jumps from saying I to he, and then he'll say we as well when he's talking about himself. Sometimes within one sentence you'll see two different persons being used. This is just the Quranic style. But because we're addressing him directly, in one case we're praising him, saying all praise belongs to Allah. So we're stating something, that this is our belief, this is what we accept, and this is what we recognize. But then we talk to him, and then we say, we only worship you, you alone. Now we're addressing Allah. We're not going to address him in the third person. We're going to address him as in the first person, which is logical. So I mean, you know, this is just a quirk of the language. This is how it works, and therefore this is what we do.
Excellent, Jazakallah. Now the next question is, can we offer the Hajj or Taraweeh prayer in 4 rakat each, or do we have to observe it in 2 rakat each?
Well, you see, there are different reports, but the report about the final practice of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was that he used to do 4 sets of 2 rakat, and then he used to do his witr, which is also 2, and then adding 1. So therefore it was 11 rakat in all. This is the final practice during his life, and his practice changed slightly. So perhaps Allah was giving him more guidance as things were going along. Therefore, it's not a sin if we, just for the blessing, we do something that he used to do in the earlier parts of his prophethood. Because he did it so out of love, we also do it. But we should conform ourselves to his final practice, because this is the one which he would have wanted us to follow in the end, with the benefit of all the hindsight that he had. So therefore, we should stick to that. I think that's the best practice to follow.
Absolutely. Jazakallah. Now the next question is, we do takbirat on Eid al-Adha. Do we do it as well on Eid al-Fitr?
Well, for the Eid prayers, we do the takbirat. That's part of the prayer. This is part of the established prayer. But why this question? This is something which anyone can check online. There must be another reason.
I think what is meant is when we, I forgot the name for it, when we sit down for prayer afterwards, and then after every prayer we say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah.
Ah, you mean the takbirat after the prayer? Ah,
yes.
Not the ones during the prayer.
Not the ones during the prayer. Yes, I think these are what is meant by the question, I think.
Yes. Well, as far as I can recall, we do takbirat for the Eid al-Fitr, but we don't continue it for long. But for the Eid al-Adha, we continue it for 3 days, is it not? This
yes.
Is that's the practice.
Yes.
Now you see why we do this. I really don't know why, but this is the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. And we, as we follow the Prophet ﷺ, and he has said that we pledge to follow the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in whatever we have understood, and even in the things we don't understand yet. So we pledge to do that. So this is one thing that if a person is really bothered by this, why is it different in this and compared to that? One reason which comes to mind is that, as we call it, the Choti Eid and the Badi Eid. So there's, the Eid al-Adha is the bigger one because it comes with that big sacrifice. So maybe for that reason we do it. But we can ask Allah also. If a person is bothered by it, they can ask Allah that, Allah, please guide me to a good answer to this. Why is it exactly that this occurred? But it's not one of the questions which should bother us to the degree that we can't sleep anymore thinking about it. Obviously, this is just an academic question, really.
Yes. Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know, what the real reply is to this. I'm sorry, but I don't really know the answer to this one.
Okay, Jazakallah. So the next question is in regards to Lailatul Qadr as well. Does Lailatul Qadr come to a person who is worshipping and reading Quran but not fasting due to medical reasons?
You see, if a person is not fasting due to medical reasons, then that person has been exempted by Allah. Now, how can Allah exempt a person and then say, but I'm very sorry, but the bad news is that you're also deprived of the blessing? Now, if this person has a medical condition but also doesn't really want to fast, Allah knows that. So you can't hide it from Allah and say, well, I have a medical condition, which is true, but and I also want to fast, but which is not true. As long as the person really, really desires to fast and tries to fast even, but then sees that it's not possible, then Allah will not deprive that person because He's merciful. And the same can be said of ladies who are told that they're not obliged to go and say their prayers in the mosque. As long as they try to say their prayers in congregation, if they can, in their homes, then they too will get the 27 times more blessing that we go for in the mosque. But if they can't even say their prayer in congregation, for example, if there's just one lady with little children, and she can't really do her prayer in congregation, but she really wants to do it, then that person too will receive the blessing anyway. So they're not doing anything, plus they're getting the blessing, so it's a win-win for the ladies. So they shouldn't feel bad about not doing something. When Allah has exempted someone from something, they receive the blessing if they feel bad about it and they really feel like they would have loved to do it, but they're told by Allah not to, so they obey. The real blessing is in the obedience, actually. When we obey, that's where we get the blessing. You can't force Allah to give you a reward. You can't. You can't say, Allah, I know you said I shouldn't fast, but I'm fasting anyway, and I want that reward. Allah said, but I'm told you don't have to. So why are you forcing this upon me? So that person risks not only not getting the blessing, but also annoying Allah. And then Allah could be angry as well. So, we should be happy when Allah has given an exemption and benefit from it.
You just reminded me of another question which usually comes during the month of Ramadan, which is that, also in regards to forcing blessings, is that when, women cannot recite the Holy Quran for a certain period of time, what should they do? Is it permissible to observe, to recite the Holy Quran with a piece of cloth, with gloves on, or what is the correct way to do it?
You see, Hazrat Masih Maud Islam has already said that when ladies have been exempted from reading the Quran when they are passing through the monthly period during the month, then he said, then they shouldn't read because they're not deprived by this. This is Allah's exemption, so they should benefit from the exemption. They'll still get the blessing. So they can't force this upon Allah, as you rightly said. This is also a related question. However, Hazrat Khalifa Khamis and other Khulafa before him have stated, and has recently said it, that a lady should not read the Quran because this is not the right time for her to read the Quran for many reasons. But she is allowed, if somebody asks her for a reference, for example, from the Quran, if she takes a clean cloth and opens the Quran without being very, very careful, she can point out a reference. She can also teach a child how to read the Quran. But she should not recite the Quran. It's the recitation itself that has been forbidden. So this is the thing which they have to be very careful of. So the best thing is not to touch it at all. But if they really have to, like getting a reference for someone in Tabligh, or if they have to teach a child, then that's an exception. But they should not even so recite as we do the recitation in the mornings, because Allah has said not to, for reasons of hygiene. Now remember, ladies who say, yes, but we're very clean, we're in modern countries, we are not like, the ladies in the poorer countries who lack all the means, etc. That's not the point. Islam makes a rule for the least in society, those who have the least things in society. So the rule is for the lowest denominator. And then there will be one rule for all. Because if we start going into, well, I'm above that, I'm better than that, then it'll be subjective. Some ladies will say, well, when we're at this level, we're fine. And others will say, no, you have to be at this level. And there'll be no end to it. So Allah says, look, it's forbidden to all of you, whether you're clean or not. This is the reason, and you're just going to be forbidden, and that's it. So it makes things much simpler. So ladies who really want to read the Quran and who think, oh, I was planning on reciting the whole Quran this month, but I can't now, they shouldn't feel bad, because Allah will not deprive them, inshallah. And plus, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting down and they're getting the blessing anyway. So, yes. Also, one thing which I forgot to say is that they can recite the Quran in their minds. They can do that, but they mustn't hold the Quranic text for hygienic reasons. This is the only thing. So in their mind is fine, but not by holding the actual text.
Jazakallah. Now, next question is, apart from prophets, can other people achieve haqqul yaqeen in their life? Can an average person hear or see him like prophets do? I believe it's about Allah Almighty, like prophets do, without reaching the status of prophethood.
Well, obviously, if the teaching is that there is haqqul yaqeen at one stage, and if this was only for prophets, why would it be included in the Quran? Because then it would be only for a very, very, very limited number of people that we could probably count on the fingers of one hand. That wouldn't make much sense. Therefore, people who are not prophets can reach the level of haqqul yaqeen. Now, how Allah decides to show himself to a person is entirely upon Allah. He can show himself in different ways to different people at different stages. So we really can't say, we can't opine on this. Every person will have his or her own experience of Allah, and he can show himself to some degree. But one thing which is certain is that whatever form he decides to show himself in to a person, that is not his real form. Because his real form is so beyond our capacity to look at that we would not be able to comprehend it even. We just can't. He's just too different from what we know and what we understand to be able to comprehend. So we will only start seeing him in a clearer way after death, and then again, Allah knows how much we'll be able to see of him. We really don't know. So this is all I can say on this for the moment.
Jazakallah. And now the next question is about Bid'ah Hasana. Can you explain what that is, and are there any examples?
Well, Bid'ah Hasana, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ himself said, it's a new practice which is a good one. Therefore, something which is beneficial for people. And although the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not do that himself in those days, however, using this practice would be a good thing, and it will bring people closer to Allah. Now, an example of this would be, for example, to institute the functions like jalsas and ijtimas. So we didn't have proper jalsas in this form that they are today in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But this is a kind of an innovative practice which brings people closer to the teachings of Allah and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and therefore it is a good thing. And there are many other advantages to it, all of which are based on the philosophy behind teachings of Islam which are already there. That's the thing. So we can't go around doing any kind of bid'ah and say it's a bid'ah hasana. For example, we know that some Muslims like to recite the entire Quran in one night when somebody dies, or they offer food 40 days after the person dies because they say that's when the soul is now being taken, etc. So they call that bid'ah hasana, but actually these are things which can turn people to shirk and to idolatry and to all kinds of other things. And also you see that reciting the whole Quran in one night makes a mockery of the Quran, because how fast do you have to read to be able to finish the whole Quran in one night? Therefore, they're not giving the Quran the respect that it's due. So therefore, we have to understand that if there is any kind of idolatry or shirk involved, or if there is a lack of respect of any sort of either Allah or the Prophet or his angels or the books concerned, then it's not a bid'ah hasana. Then it's a bad bid'ah. Bid'ah sayyah. So this would be a bad innovation, and that would be forbidden by the Prophet ﷺ.
Jazakallah. Now I'm going to combine a couple of questions in regards to fidya and zakat. If you can elaborate about fidya and zakat, what it is, and if one has to pay it through the Jamaat, or can we give it to the needy if personally, if we feel like
Well, zakat definitely has to be paid to the authorities, and in our Jamaat we don't have any governmental authority, so we pay to the Jamaat administration itself. However, fidya can be paid directly by a person to any poor person as they desire. This is possible. However, we should try to give it through the Jamaat, and usually the Jamaat will spend this on the needy within the country itself, usually. Then we'll get an added blessing for having gone through the nizam of the Jamaat of the Promised Messiah alayhi salam. So we'll get like a double blessing if you wish. But if you personally know somebody who is needy and you would like to give your fidya to that person, then you can do so. That's not forbidden at all.
Jazakallah. There was also another question in regards to that. The question was, due to the current situation, we are unable to go to the mosque. Do we still pay Eid Fund and Fitrana if we are doing Eid Namaz at home?
If you pay Eid Fund, then next year we'll have double Eid Fund for even better celebrations, inshallah. But the thing is that I don't know whether Husul has said that there can be relaxation this month. But would you not all agree that it's better to err on the side of caution with this one? And it's better to not be caught out and say, well, I thought that there wasn't going to be any Eid, so I thought we don't need to pay it. It's not like you're paying £5 million as Eid Fund. It's just a little amount. So it's best to have it, done and dusted. And then if later on they say, well, you didn't have to pay it, I'll say, well, that's all right. It's just a little bit more for next year, So there's no harm. Always err on the side of caution. It's a good principle in life.
Jazakallah. Now, just for the benefit of the viewers, Fidya is £60, Eid Fund is £10 per earning member, and Fitrana is £2 per person. And you can pay at home online at chanda.org.uk. So the Jamaat has created this website where we can just simply sit at home and pay our chandas as well. Now, the next question is, so this question is a bit personal, but if you can maybe generalize it, what is your personal routine when praying, worshipping on the odd nights? But I would request you to maybe generalize it. What should one do during the odd nights? How should one observe prayer?
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the permission to generalize. The thing is that everybody has their own way of doing these things. And the best way is to make the effort, first of all, the niyat the day before, and say, Allah, I am very weak and I can't do this on my own. Please help me to worship you in the best way possible. And do not deprive me, do not let me be bereft of the blessings. And then one should also keep praying, as Hazrat Masih said, during our prayers, that Allah help us to keep our concentration on the prayer, and also that Allah grant us the delight of the prayer, meaning the pleasure which is associated with the prayer. Because when we start getting this pleasure, then we will want more of it. Because human beings, once they taste pleasure, they want more. So this is something which will keep us hooked to the prayer. And also, as far as the routine is concerned, well, I think I've said enough of that. We all know how we're supposed to do it. But what we should pray for, one of the ways of getting our prayers accepted more by Allah is to pray for His beloved. So if we pray for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ profusely, we have a far greater chance, and it has to be sincere, of course, bringing into our minds all the sufferings that he went through. Reminding ourselves that he never ate 3 days in a row with a full belly. Reminding ourselves that most of his children died in his arms in their young age. Just imagine that. Also keeping in mind that because of the boycott of the Meccans, many of his loved ones died, including his wife Khadija. May Allah be pleased with her. So he made great sacrifices, and also he had to fight battles just so that Islam could reach us, so that it could remain till the end of time. So we have to remember all these things that he deprived himself of. And he could have been a great king if he'd wanted to. But when he passed away, all he had in his room was a coarse palm fiber mat on the floor and a water pot in a corner of the room. That's all he had. So remind ourselves of these things and then pray for him, and pray for his children, his progeny, pray for his followers, pray for all the khulafa after him, all the saints of Islam, the Promised Messiah and his khulafa, and all the saintly people in our Jamaat also. And if we do that, and then we present our pleas to Allah, which are more spiritual than material, as I had said earlier, then we have a greater chance of having our prayers heard. And those prayers will also be heard by Allah. And as the Prophet ﷺ said, that if anyone prays for me, Allah returns it upon him many times over. Therefore, this is the best way to pray. And these days, we are blessed with an imam in our Jamaat. Need I remind you, we all know, that we have to pray greatly for our Imam, who suffers for us every single day. He is imprisoned by his own will to sit there and look after and take care of all the worries that are upon the people in the Jamaat, that are bearing down upon the people in the Jamaat. And so therefore that as well at the price of his health and his well-being. So the least we should do is pray for him. And now we've heard that he's had an unfortunate accident. By the grace of Allah, of course, he is recovering in a good way. But nevertheless, many of our prayers should be devoted to him, that Allah may allow him to live a healthy and long, fruitful life, and that we may also benefit from him fully and not miss out on any opportunity to benefit from him. So these are the prayers which we should say. And if we say these prayers, there are there's a great hope. There's great hope that Allah will accept our other, pleas and entreaties as well, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah, excellent. Now, Another question was in regards to itikaf. If women, for instance, have their period, cannot sit itikaf, and have maybe time at the last, 3 days to sit itikaf, is that possible? Uh, that also, reminds me of another question of is do we have to sit for 10 days? Can we sit for other numbers of days as well?
Well, we know that the practice of the Prophet ﷺ was to sit for 10 full days, or a little less if the month is going to be of 29, of course, then it'll be 1 day less, but this is his practice, so we should try to follow that practice. However, if we don't have the possibility of sitting more than 3 or 2, 3, 4 days, then we should sit for as long as we can. But it also has to be feasible if it's in a mosque. You know that especially in our Jamaat we're very well organized, so therefore people who have submitted their applications well in advance will be the ones who will have the space allotted to them. So we can't just suddenly decide, when there's 2 or 3 days left, that, oh, I want to go and sit at the kaf and just barge into the mosque and say, okay, where's my spot? We can't do that. So there has to be a kind of organization behind it as well. Therefore, if we're going to sit itikaf in our homes, then we can sit for as many days as we like, and Allah is the one who's there to accept or not. We can't opine on that. This is for Allah to accept. Allah knows the sincerity of His creature, and we can only hope that any devotion which is done for His sake will be accepted by Him, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah Hasan. Jahangeer Sahib, I would like to just quickly mention a few things before we finish off. So first of all, Jazakallah for delivering an excellent daras and also answering, all the questions. Jazakumullah Hasan for that. Also, as you have just reminded everyone, just would like to remind once again that we should, during the last 10 days, fervently pray for our beloved Imam, Huzur Anwar Aida Tala bin Nasr Aziz, and also in these last 10 days, as we try to gain as many blessings as possible, we should, pay our chandas, as you've also mentioned, but Tehreek Jadid promises, try to fulfill them within this blessed month of Ramadan. And also, Munir Jawahir Sahib, asked me to, convey his salam and tell everyone that, he's, invited Maulana Jahangeer Sahib for today's dars and made this dars happen. So Jazakallah Ahsanza for that. Also from our regional Misab, he sends his salam and Jazakumullah Ahsanza for taking out your time and delivering your dars today. So from my side also, Jazakumullah Ahsanza, and to all the viewers, Jazakallah for joining us today. And also please remember Maulana Jahangeer Sahib also in your special prayers. May Allah Almighty, bless him and also give him health and a long, healthy life and strength as well, and bless him in his work. So please, Maulana Sahib, if you can kindly lead us in silent prayer.
Jazakumullah. Thank you very much indeed. Dua. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah Ahsan al-Jazaa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.